Like it's so, but that's Dr. Jackie's thing. You know, she's queen bee right now. So she's all about the vagina. She's all about writing books about vaginas, talking about vaginas, showing vaginas, treating vaginas. Like that's her thing.
It is her thing. But what about the husbands? Like, should the husbands be or the wives be off limits? Like, we just had something similar in Beverly Hills where like Mauricio and PK, they were saying like, whose wife, if you had to choose someone? I mean,
They did
this,
at our dinner and
I
Tori
know.
said that she'd go for Dr. Saja. Like, what the hell? Where does that come from? Why would you say that? I mean, I at one point put my napkin over her mouth. I'm like, you need to stop talking. You need to stop talking. But, you know, she doesn't.
That's when it's like, I mean, like, even if you think this, like, you're going to have to face all these people tomorrow morning, like, enough, right?
Never say those things about my husband. Like, even if I thought them, I just, that wouldn't be my topic of conversation because, yeah, they should be off limits.
What about, like you said, like Toy, we see some things coming up with like Toya and like, I mean, of course we talked about like a lot of other people's marriages, like you're happily married, like who do you think can use your marital advice the most out of the married couples?
Well, I've been married almost 20 years. Dr. Simone
Wow.
and Cecil have been through a lot. They reunited. Dr. Jackie and her husband Curtis went through a lot. They reunited. I think Anila has a strong marriage. I've met Audra's husband. He seems great. They're newlyweds. Heavenly, of course, she and her husband have a strong marriage. And Tori and Eugene, I think, have a strong marriage. But I think this season you're going to see some of the problems in certain people's marriages. So that's coming.
Do you think being on like this show kind of helps a lot of these women in their marriages, or
It's devastational for marriages. Ramona was saying that the other day. She blames, a lot of what happened for her divorce. Because you're under a lot of pressure. You're dealing with your cast members and drama and problems, and you're working filming, and so there's not a lot of time, and then you got your job or whatever you do normally. This and the kids, there's not a lot of time for husbands, and I think that can lead to husbands feeling a little bit left out, and then minor problems become major problems. And if you're not sitting down and talking about it, and if you're not completely having each other's back, then there's going to be problems in your marriage.
I would agree with all of that. Does Ramona think that like being on the show for so long is like what led to her divorcing Mario?
Well, she does blame a lot of the show for the stress that it put both of them under.
I could see that. I mean, I've had other housewives on that have point blank said, I think I would still be married if it wasn't
Yeah,
for
I mean,
this
it's
show.
really, I think it's the curse of a lot of relationships because it highlights if you have a flaw or a crack in your marriage, that's going to be shown. That's going to be highlighted. Any skeletons you've got in the closet, they're going to be revealed. Like for people to think that, oh, I did this and I can get away with it. That's not the case. It will be shown because people are watching and people are revealing things and people are talking, and there's going to be, secrets revealed. So that's just part of it. You have to accept that going into it, that you can't have a lot of secrets. I mean, it's like politicians, they think they're going to get away with things, and then years later it comes out.
I wonder if Ramona, look, she had a great run. I wonder if she regrets being on Housewives.
I don't think so. I think, she has a positive attitude. She's the type of person that will say it is what it is, but it's like when I got going with this, Heather Dubrow said to me, it's the 80-20. And I think we talked about that last time. You're going to love 80% of it, or if you hope, and then 20% of it, you're going to hate. So as long as you look at it like that, there's times when you watch yourself and you cringe, things you've said or how they're depicted. But for the most part, it's a positive experience, or at least that's been my experience.
I think that's such a good way. Yeah, I think we did, and Heather Dubrow said that. I think that's such a good way to put it, because same thing with this podcast, like any job, I think in the public eye or where something's being recorded and time date stamped, 20% of the time you just cringe. It just is what it is.
God. I mean, every time, and a lot of actors, I was reading about Brad Pitt, he never watches himself because, and a lot of actors never watch themselves. And I think with reality TV, you know, that's showing your life and how you talk and what you say and what you do, yeah, it's hard to watch yourself sometimes. So I will skim through, like if I watch the seasons, I'll skim through a lot of it. So I get the gist of what's going on. I don't need to know all the ins and outs and listen to everything I've said, but you know, I'll skim through it.
You like to fast forward through your own scenes.
Oh my God. And other people's. Like I was there. I don't need to relive it sometimes, but yeah, unless it's a great funny scene and then I watch it and laugh my head off. But for the most part, I'm fast forwarding.
I get it. I mean, listening back to myself on this podcast is not my favorite thing to do in the world, but I'm glad everyone else enjoys it so much.
They do, yes. You've had some very famous people on. And God, I was so sorry you had Anne Heck on, and Hesh.
Hesh, yeah.
Yeah, and God, what a tragic death. That's so tragic.
It was crazy timing. And I just, people say, look, you just like, we just bonded. Like, she was so vibrant, and it was open. And like, I say to people, like, that's definitely like one of my favorite episodes, just because we just connected. I loved her.
And then that's for all time. Like, that is so good that you have that interview, like the images of her and film of her that never would have been revealed.
It's like, she was just wonderful. And like, I really came away thinking like, this woman is brilliant. Honestly, I thought she had so many thoughts, and she's like, are you following me? And I'm like, I'm following everything you're saying, just about love and life. And just, I was like, I'm right here with you. I understand.
I love that. I love that.
It's a good one. If you haven't listened, you should.
I'll have to check it out.
Well, Ramona also says, that it's hard to date because she's on the show. I mean, she said this in many interviews. Like, she's like, straight men do not want this. They don't want to be on camera. They think they know you, so I think it makes it hard to date when you're on a show for as long as Ramona as well.
Yeah, it is hard. I'm glad I'm not having to try and date, because a lot of people, they don't want the attention. And so they think maybe by dating you, they're going to be on camera, or it's going to be said something about them, or in the newspapers. So yeah, I guess a lot of guys are a lot more private than the girls on the show. And so they just don't want to be a part of it.
What about, speaking of dating, Quad is single. So what type